welcome to One Voice Live, where we talk about One Voice, what it is, and how it fits into the world of singing. I am your host, Alex Zeto, and today we have another interview with a very special guest, Maggie Bera. And a few fun facts about Maggie Bera. She graduated from Texas State University with a BFA in musical theater. She is now based in New York City and has a blog and podcast, which we'll get into more later. She is a diehard Philadelphia Eagles fan. Go football. And she rescued a dachshund named after the Eagles quarterback, Carson. Please welcome Maggie Bera.
Hi. Hello. Thanks for having me.
I'm so happy to have you here. So another fun fact, Maggie and I did CRT together, and she was the Wendy to my Mrs. Darling.
Oh, what fun times.
And it was so fun. And we sat next to each other. Our mirrors were next to each other backstage, and I bugged her. I feel like our entire energy was you just being like, and me being like off the walls just before she. It was so good.
No, not lying.
Okay, Maggie, are you ready to dive in?
Let's do this.
Okay, great. So the purpose of this is just to hear your journey of singing and how One Voice has affected your singing journey. So to start off, how did you get started singing?
Funny story. So I actually grew up. I grew up in New Jersey, and I started singing because my parents bought a karaoke machine, and I literally would sing for my family when they would come over for like New Year's and 4th of July. But the reason why I bring up New Jersey is because there are a lot of minor league baseball teams and major league baseball teams and sports teams. And my grandpa one day came home and said that there was an audition to sing the national anthem for one of the teams. And so I went out, I think it was for like the Somerset Patriots. And I went and I sang the anthem. I learned it like the night before. And I went in a random mall with my parents and sang it in front of like everyone. And I was one of like 10 people to be chosen to sing. So I was 9 or 10 years old. And then for the next year or two, I literally toured the tri-state area and sang the anthem for all of these teams. I had shirts made, like it was a whole thing. I always wore my hair in braids, like sparkles. I'll find pictures. It's very cute. But I literally, that's how I started singing, was I just kind of was, I liked to sing, and my parents found opportunities for me to do that in front of people. And yeah, I was literally singing the national anthem everywhere, like at opening day ceremonies and Veterans Day things, and just like Little League baseball games, anywhere we could find opportunities for me to perform, I did it, and I loved it.
Oh, cool. Were the shirts you related, or just like whatever team?
Literally, it said like, oh gosh, I'll have to ask my mom. I can't remember, but my whole family had matching shirts, of course. And they were like Maggie. They were so lame. Maggie's like Star Spangled Tour. It was so cute.
I want that.
And it had like all the dates in the back on the T-shirt. Like I really felt like a straight up celebrity at 10.
Oh my
God, it's really cute.
Famous like that. Those shirts are.
Yep.
They have to.
I know.
Oh, good. So did you ever really deal with stage fright then?
I don't really remember. I mean, I dealt with nerves, but they didn't feel like totally out of normal, because I had done it. I had sung in front of a lot of people a lot of times. Like I had a lot of experience just getting up and performing, and I never felt nervous to do so. Like if my family wanted me to go sing at a song in karaoke, I'd be like, great, let's do it. I never really had any hesitation to do it. And like even for singing in stadiums and stuff, like I ended up singing for the Mets. And thousands and thousands of people, and even having to deal with like a lot of people, the echo, like the feedback that you have when you're singing with a mic there, like it just thinking about that time, it probably was really crazy, but at the time I was just so young, and I was just very excited to do it and just eager to just sing, so I didn't really think twice about it. Yeah.
So cool. So what happened next for you as you get a little bit older? What does it start to look like for you?
I started doing shows. because I really liked musical theater and I liked seeing shows. So I just kind of got involved in that. But as for singing goes, I never really had a true voice teacher growing up. I had a vocal coach who was fantastic. She was so great with me. She worked all throughout my time in high school. But we worked primarily on building my audition book and building rep and finding songs for auditions. She was so fantastic. But we didn't work too much on the inner mechanisms of the voice and like how I sing and how I can manipulate my voice. And even like I studied at a summer program at Paper Mill, which is a regional theater in New Jersey. And again, fantastic opportunity. But at the same time, I only got to take voice lessons. Like it was like a 5-week program and I only got to take them once a week. So again, it just wasn't, I feel like I didn't have a lot of training before going into college.
Really?
Yeah.
So you're what we call in the One Voice world, you may have heard this before, a unicorn.
Yeah.
You were one of the people who just kind of stumbled upon the good stuff and then could deliver.
Yeah, it was more so like my dad, if he's watching, he has really good taste in music. And so when I would, drive in the car with him and stuff, I just liked mimicking sounds that came off the radio. So that was sort of like self-taught. I don't know. I just really liked mimicking sounds and doing weird things with my voice and sounding like different people off the radio. So yeah, even in high school and in shows that I did in high school, I didn't really have anyone necessarily work on my voice. It was more so just like the overall performance of everything, which is why going to college was really exciting for me because it was like the first opportunity that I had to work with someone one-on-one for an extended period of time to explain my voice to me and to figure that out with me.
Yeah, Maggie, I didn't know that though. That's like, especially now working with students who go through the college audition process.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah, it is.
And I'm sure like your process was also insane, but that you had gone through that, never having any formal voice training. That's crazy.
Yeah.
All right. Good night.
It almost takes, all right. Well, this
has been fun.
It was like, it actually in a way took a lot of pressure off of me because I didn't have someone really holding over me like that, what my voice should be sounding like and what, there were no expectations really. It was more so what I was putting on myself, what I heard other people doing. Like I loved watching YouTube videos of my favorite Broadway performers and how they sounded. And so it was more so just like my expectations that I put on myself, which were, very, very high and annoying, but like, it wasn't like I had someone else to say, no, this is how you should be sounding. So it almost in a way was kind of freeing.
Yeah, totally.
Especially in the college audition process.
Can you share with us a few of your biggest influences?
Biggest influences vocally. I'm just a huge fan of vocal chameleons, like people who can just do it all, which is why I love mimicking sounds. So Jessie Mueller is a big one that comes to mind. I just like, I can't think of anyone else that's better than what she does in the business. I heard of her when she started with Beautiful, but then I saw clips of her in Waitress, and then I saw clips of her in Carousel, and I was like, whoa. I've always wanted to be able to do something like that. And to see someone who was going through the business and being able to go from one role to the next, vocally completely different worlds. That was definitely really inspiring. But she's probably my biggest influence, I think.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So One Voice is your first experience of formal vocal training.
Yeah.
Had you then heard you've heard then, I like can't wrap my mind around this, the conventional words of singing.
Yes.
So you
heard. Yes.
Okay.
So yes, I took, I had a lot of training in just general musical theater, and I also took choir classes in school. So I had certain terminology, but I think what I lacked before going into One Voice was like very specific terminology. All I had was like now you need to belt, and now you need to sing in your soprano voice. But I didn't like know anything about belting softly and singing soprano or singing in your lightweight loud. Like I didn't have very specific terminology, so it just was very muddy to me, and like I didn't know where and how sounds were being produced from my mouth. I didn't really know anything about the vocal cords, and it was very new to me when I went to college for it.
Okay, amazing. And One Voice enters the scene. What's your initial reaction?
Weirdly, I was very apprehensive because, which is, I say it's weird because I feel like if I had more of a background in the training of singing, that I would have been more apprehensive. But I was just apprehensive because I wanted answers quickly. And I just like remember even when I first started learning about One Voice, like I just wanted to know what I was doing and how I was doing as fast as possible. Like I wanted to get to the end result very fast. Especially because I came from a background of like mimicking sounds. So I would want to very quickly figure out how to mimic the sound so I could do it really fast. And I was very impatient. So I was super apprehensive, which is hilarious because now I'm like, it's One Voice's biggest fan.
So interesting to me though. That makes so much sense because you were used to like, wah, wah, done. Moving on, and then all of a sudden you have teachers, and for those of you who haven't taken private sessions with us, like it's not, I don't want to say it's a slow process because the results come quickly, but changing your perspective, building the common vocabulary, that takes time.
That takes a lot of time. There's a massive foundation that needs to be built, a foundation of terminology and also trust that needs to be built before anything else. And now I think like as I progressed throughout college, once I had that background and that foundation, I was, like that's where the magic happens, because then, if you're working with a coach who's certified in One Voice, all of a sudden they say one thing and you immediately know what they mean and you're able to make a switch on a dime. But it's the beginning stages of it that are a struggle if you're impatient and just want the end result as fast as possible.
Totally. And in my experience as a coach, I can tell when someone's not quite there yet. Because when they cross over, when they come back into the session, I'm like, great, how was singing this week? They're like, oh, well, I tried this and I was doing this. And they have all these like discoveries and things that they want answers on versus the other person who maybe hasn't quite bought into it yet is coming and saying, tell me what's going on.
Yep.
And that's the difference is now suddenly you have all this information and all this vocabulary to build your voice on your own.
Yes.
And it becomes a collaboration.
Yes.
Yeah. That's so cool. I love that. So what were you mainly working on in college? What was your One Voice journey like?
Primarily I worked on weight in my voice, just because I mostly, like I lived in a very mid to heavy weight throughout like just my whole singing journey prior to college. Like I sang the anthem really loud and really belty, and I played a lot of belty, very heavy sounding roles. And the only time I ever really didn't do that, like I played Cosette in Les Mis my freshman year, and that was the first time that I literally ever had to sing lightweight. So that was sort of like an experiment for me. But again, no one ever was like, this is how you should do it and here's why, or like, here, let's work on this. It was more so just like mimic the sound. So when I got to college, I really wanted to work on that because I knew I had that in me, but I didn't. I think what was the biggest issue for me was I was so used to singing so heavy that I felt like I couldn't let go of that. And that anytime I tried to take off the weight of my voice, it felt weak. And I just wasn't used to that sensation. I hated it, but I wanted to get really good at it because I wanted to sing like legit music. I wanted to do that. It was just a matter of how do I do that? And how do I switch really fast? How do I go from, auditioning for a role that's super belty and heavy to a more legit sounding role that uses a really lightweight.
Totally. Or
so that's
room sometimes.
Yeah, in the same room. I just did it the other day, and it's like, it's challenging, but like that is the reality of our industry right now. It's that it's so up in the air. Like we literally have shows like West Side Story, and then we have shows like Mean Girls. And how do you go in to auditions like that, or even more so, how do you go into season, like auditions for seasons of shows where they have auditions for Oklahoma and Heathers?
Yeah. Oh my God.
Like how do you manipulate your sound, like singing one traditional song and one contemporary musical theater song back to back? So that was something that I really wanted to work on, because I knew that type-wise too, I could do both of those things. I just wanted to get good at them, and I wanted to be strong at it. So yeah.
Yeah, and something I want to point out that you're talking about for people who are listening is a lot of times we think, musical theater, going from a lightweight soprano to the belt is the hard part. That's getting a heavyweight from a lightweight. That's the tricky one. But
it's the opposite.
Anything you haven't done is the tricky part. So like you being this like belt queen, I think of you as like a heavy midweight queen.
Yeah.
Like totally. Right between the gap, the bridge between a midweight to heavyweight. That's what I or at least the Maggie Bera that I knew. The music makes me dance for something. That go to. But of course that's going to be super easy for you, because that you've done that since you were 9 and going on a national anthem tour, which I love. But the exact opposite would be true if you had been singing in a soprano-y lightweight forever and trying to, they're both. It's just what you use, truly.
Yep.
Totally. So I think that's as frustrating as it can be. I think that's encouraging to hear. For singers. Okay, so. Talk about, I think this is probably what you mean, but the biggest improvement you've seen in One Voice, what would that be for you?
Confidence in my voice and strength in the weight, especially. Just because we really worked on it so hard in college, because, and I see direct results from it. Like I see, audition appointments and callbacks for shows that are very legit and very, just like I have to live in that world. And so to me, that's a direct, that's very positive, because, the industry is trusting that I can do that. Whereas before, when I went into school, oh my gosh, I would have never even thought about singing something that would show off my lightweight sound, because I would have considered that a weakness of mine. So yeah, being more confident, I feel like that it really helped my confidence in my lightweight and midweight ability, and also to manipulate them quickly. I think it helps me too, like if I'm going in for shows or if I have to understudy roles. I've done a couple of, professionally I've had to understudy. And usually I'll have to play a role in the show, either a featured role or in the ensemble, where I have to sing one way and then switch gears and have to sing a completely different way, a different resonance, a different, just everything, very fast. And so I think that One Voice has definitely helped me in that way as well.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
So here's a question for you. People, going from style to style in different weights for some people in the early stages, I've heard from a lot of people that they feel like a fraud when they're starting a new style. Did you ever feel, this is kind of a leading question, did you ever feel like a fraud trying to sing like a soprano? Was that, or did you always look at it muscle that you were?
I actually felt like I didn't really know what I felt like not necessarily a fraud, but that I didn't really know what my natural true voice was, because I was so used to, even growing up, was so used to mimicking different sounds. And especially in the pop world, because I was listening to a lot of stuff off the radio. So I was mimicking all these like folk and rock and different sounds. So when it came to, when it came to legit stuff, I would just try to mimic, my favorite, whether it was like Laura Osnes or Kelly O'Hara, I would try to mimic that sound. And often, yes, I did feel like a fraud because I felt more so just comfortable in where my voice lived when I was singing heavier. Yeah, and that just took time to get used to because it's not about feeling authentic to me. It is more so being able to use your voice and the tools that One Voice gives you to do justice to different roles and shows.
Yeah.
I think if you're able to use those tools and manipulate the sounds that you have, you're even more marketable in the business because you're able to do more than one thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, spoken like a true one voicer.
I love it.
Truly. The whole idea of authenticity is what's authentic. Like it's all muscles. They're all choices.
Yep.
Just some totally. Used more than others. That's awesome.
Yep.
So you've spoken a bit about this. How has One Voice come to play in your professional world?
So definitely, like I said earlier, manipulating back and forth between different styles of shows. And also doing that in a healthy way so that I'm able to sustain multiple auditions in the day and not blow out my voice in like a Rent audition and then have to go to a Sound of Music audition and not be able to produce those sounds. I think that it gave me tools to be able to do that.
You could not have picked two better shows.
You know what I mean?
Like Rent.
Done that, but I feel like I've done something very similar where I've had to like scream my face off and then, an hour later run to another audition where I had to do something completely different.
Yeah.
But like doing it in an efficient way, not, especially when it comes to heavier things. Yeah, just because I'm so used to just singing so heavy that being able to let off some of that weight has been beneficial for me, being able to sustain a day of auditions or performances. And yeah.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Where are you now in your One Voice journey?
Right now, I am switching gears a little bit because ironically, I found that some legit stuff comes easier to me. I think that's just because of so much work that we put into, in college, and that it's become not a challenge, but just a little bit more difficult to navigate heavier weights, and not to get so heavy that it's affecting pitch or being able to riff or or affecting the way I'm singing pop stuff. I think I'm putting a little bit more effort now into the different styles of pop and texture. Whereas before I was just so focused on lightweight. Yeah, so that's been different for me just because I didn't get to really work on that before. But again, it's very helpful to have the tools that we learned through One Voice and also to have sort of like visual representation of them.
Yes.
I can't stress enough how important it was for me, at least, to be able to have terminology to communicate with voice teachers or musical directors. It just helps the communication process and makes everything so much faster.
Yeah.
And quicker and easier.
I just can't believe being so immersed in this world, like looking back and being like, how did we do anything?
I don't know, but it's just so funny. Like even when I came, I don't know, when I first got into Texas State and I was visiting the school, I sat in on, I think it was your rehearsal of You're in Town.
Oh my gosh, wow.
Yeah, and even when I like sat in on other rehearsals of shows, or if I was understudying or swinging or whatever, and I wasn't necessarily in the show, but I was watching, just seeing how fast the communication is, how efficient it is.
Mhm.
Even when Michael Maresca would come in and sit in on rehearsals, having not been there and just being like an extra eye and ear, and just giving like one or two notes and just seeing people make a massive change in a split second.
Mhm.
It's so cool and really helpful if you want to pursue this, because that's so marketable again too. You want to be able to take a note and use it on a dime. So
Yeah. Ooh, that's interesting. Have you had any post-college experiences where
mhm.
someone's given you a note?
Yeah, in the room. Like I had someone, and I love doing that. That's like my favorite thing. When someone gives me a note, it's a really fun game for me to try to succeed and exceed their expectation of what they asked. And so like one time I was singing a pop song, and the casting director asked me if I could grunge it up vocally.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing how to do that helped a lot, because that had a lot to do with one voice,
Mm-hmm.
and like activating false folds and making it sound a little bit more squeezed and heavier. Just that helped a lot, because I wasn't there screaming or blowing out my voice for 5 minutes in the room for no other reason.
Totally.
Yeah, and that's happened a couple of times, even with legit stuff, making the sound more mature. What does that mean? Well, there are a lot of different ways that you can do that, but having the tools to do so is very important.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Vocal translating is one of the
This is so
because it's literally like it's like a puzzle, and you're just like, oh, you
yeah,
therefore you want me to do this. Okay, cool, bloop, and then you give
yeah,
it.
which is so funny because you can't physically see it happening.
Yeah. Yeah, but then people who don't have one voice are like, whoa, how did, like, that's incredible. And you're like, yeah.
Yeah, whatever, it's fine.
Yeah.
We're just magicians.
Yeah, it's not magic information. Yeah, so.
Yeah.
Um, Last question as I reach for my charger because my phone's about to die. Or my laptop, right? Wouldn't that be fun? What's my last question? Oh, what advice do you have for one voice?
Oh, my biggest piece of advice is just to go in with an open mind, and to ask as many questions as possible, because again, the beginning stages of it can be frustrating, and because when you want to learn about your voice, something that can often be very vulnerable. You want to get answers as quickly as possible so that you can manipulate it, but that's not necessarily the goal of One Voice, and it shouldn't be. Really, the goal is, as you said earlier, is it needs to be a collaboration and a 50-50 give and take. It can't just be a teacher telling a student what to do. It has to be also the student doing things on their own time and in their own way, and figuring out those things for themselves as well. Mm-hmm. So going in with an open mind and also asking questions when they come up in an honest way is really important, and only sets yourself up for success.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that so much.
She loves that.
She loves it. Say that for all new students, like coming to lessons and be like, listen to Maggie.
Oh, please be open-minded. Please.
Awesome. I love that. Oh my gosh, Maggie.
Oh, yelling.
Love that. That was so interesting to me. I love you have a very interesting story, and I love your point of view on it. So thank you for sharing that. Anything else you want to add before our next segment?
No, I feel like I left it off on a good note. But talk anymore.
Yeah, let's not.
We're all going downhill from here.
Okay, next segment, getting to know you.
Yay!
All right. Okay, so this segment, I'm going to ask you questions.
Okay. But I'm nervous.
You'll be nervous.
So nervous.
And your job is to answer as quickly and honestly as possible.
Okay.
If you don't answer quickly enough, which is just
I will die.
You will die. But more importantly, I'll just go to the next question.
Cool.
And quickly enough is whatever I decide in that moment.
Oh my gosh.
Right? I know, kind of fun. Are you, and it's only like 30 questions, they go by really quickly. So are you ready?
Ready as I'll ever be.
And go. Causes that are important to you.
Mental health.
Best compliment you've ever received.
You have beautiful eyes.
Least favorite thing.
What'd you say, least favorite thing?
Mm-hmm.
Biting your nails.
When are you the most creative?
In the evening.
Last piece of content you consumed that made you cry.
The soundtrack of Ghost, the musical.
Sweet or savory?
Sweet.
What should people be following right now?
The Democratic debate.
Celebrities you admire.
Obama.
Song you can listen to on repeat.
What'd you say?
Song you can listen to on repeat.
I Love You by Billie Eilish.
What makes you smile the most?
My family.
Last country you visited.
Italy.
If you could go to any concert, past or present, what would it be?
An early Beatles concert.
Ooh, your affirmation every day.
Everything happens for a reason.
Can you describe yourself in a hashtag?
Hashtag actor aesthetic.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you about life right now?
Oh, 10.
You are stuck on a deserted island and you only have one book. What are you reading?
Oh, the Bible.
If your life was a musical, what would the marquee say?
Booked and busy.
What's one thing people don't know about you?
I love rap.
You love rap?
Yes.
Who is your favorite Disney character?
Ariel.
If you could star in any movie, what would it be?
Mean Girls.
What's your favorite time of day?
10 o'clock.
Dream country to visit.
10 o'clock at night. Dream country. Ireland.
Heels or flats?
Oh, flats all day.
If you couldn't be an actor, what would you do?
I would be a political journalist.
Ooh, style icon.
Kim Kardashian.
3 things you can't live without, and this is the last one.
Okay, my family, my phone, unfortunately, and unfortunately my computer.
Hey, you did it. That was great. You survived.
Stressful.
How's your heart rate?
It's always high, but it's it's at an average. It's at a high. I'll say that.
Well, glad you're 5. That's what that means. I think you did great. Okay, Maggie Bera. Last but certainly not least,
Sure.
What would you like to plug?
Awesome. So as you mentioned earlier,
And a hair in my mouth.
I'd like to plug that hair that's in your mouth.
Okay.
As you mentioned earlier, I have a blog and podcast. So I am the creator of Actor Aesthetic. It's an actor lifestyle blog, podcast, and also online learning community for young actors who are interested in pursuing a career in theater. And I release podcasts every week on Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music. I have a blog if you want to look it up. It's actoraesthetic.com. And I'm also in a concert coming up in New York. If anyone is around, it's at the Green Room 42, and we're doing the music of Ghost. So if you want more information on that, go to Green Room 42.
Awesome. And I'll put that below. But Maggie, quick question. What can people expect going to listen to your podcast?
You will hear a lot of honest information about the industry. Lots of insider information and tips that you can't necessarily get from even pursuing a degree in musical theater. It's a lot of current information, and that comes from anything between how to submit your material to casting directors without an agent, how to join Actors Equity Association, how to create your website and your resume and cover letter material, and how to build your audition book. And yeah, totally.
Yeah, super important stuff. That's so
yeah.
Maggie. Yeah. Maggie, this is so fun. Thank you. Thank you for coming on the show. It was so lovely to talk to you.
Thanks
But
so
I'll
much.
put your information below for anyone who's interested.
Awesome.
Next week, you guys, Wednesday, 6:30 p.m. CT, we'll be doing another One Voice Live. So we'll see you then. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.